Nostalgia can be a complex feeling that hits differently for everyone. It can make you feel good or bad. It can change the way you see some things. Things that were terrible can be seen through rose-tinted glasses. New things that are good may be hated simply because they are different from what you have in your memories. Your expectations created by nostalgia about the older things. This video will be a little more subjective than my other videos, introspective even. Here, I'll talk about what exactly is nostalgia, how the media we consume affect it, and how it affects the media we consume, especially games, which is the subject I focus on this channel, and then talk about the wave of ports, remasters, and remakes that appeal to nostalgia one way or another. I'm here not only to share my story and opinions, but also to propose a discussion and read what you think about this subject on the comments. So come with me and tell me your thoughts. I believe mostly everyone knows what nostalgia means, but I'll get into it anyway for practical reasons. By definition, according to Merriam-Webster dictionary, nostalgia is a wistful or excessively sentimental yearning for return to or of some past period or irrecoverable condition. In other words, that kind of melancholy you feel when you think about a time that won't come back. Your old home, your old school, having fun with your friends in your childhood, or maybe even moments that weren't really that great, but thinking back to the past after many years makes you feel like you miss even those times. When we are in front with something that we consider nostalgic, we're talking exactly about a thing that transports us back to the past and makes us feel like this, you know? I consider myself a very nostalgic person in general. So that happens a lot to me, and that's basically what motivated me to create this video. A lot of things are nostalgic to me, and I get that feeling quite often. When I listen to a song my dad used to listen when I was a kid, when I see a movie that I watched with my mom back when I lived with my parents, when I walk through the same streets I used to walk coming back home from school, all of these things evoke the feeling of nostalgia in me. This is what we call a nostalgia trip. An activity or event that brings back past feelings, usually through sounds, imagery, or even smells. Everyone comes to experience this every once in a while. Some people a little bit more, like me, but I think it's safe to affirm that in a world where everything happens, appears, and disappears faster than ever, more and more people are beginning to look for those nostalgia trips. Why? Because it's comfortable. Yearning for the past is comfortable. Wishing to go back to the good times is comfortable. Even when the present days are also good days that will become good old days in the future before we even notice it.
I wish there was a way to know you're in the good old days before you've actually left them.
Anyway, what I'm trying to say here is that throughout our lives we consume a lot of different types of media, and it's inevitable that some of them will leave a huge impression on us, and consequently become tied to a stage in our lives so deeply that whenever we come in contact with said media, we'll be thrown in the previously mentioned nostalgia trip. I play a lot of games. I've been playing games for since as I can remember, and I'm pretty sure that's also probably the case for most of you watching this video. I've got games that reminisce to basically every moment of my life. Playing the first Super Mario takes me back to my early years, when I used to play it on a Brazilian bootleg Famicom with my parents. Playing Pokemon Blue takes me back to when I was 8 years old and didn't even know English, so I would just wander aimlessly through the game and still somehow get to the end of it without being able to read anything. Playing Majora's Mask takes me back to my early teenage years when I had to change schools and started having difficulties making new friends there. Playing Okami put me on a time of my teen years that I had once again changed schools, but this time made a lot of new friends. Friendships that I cherish even now, more than 20 years later. This is only to mention a few of them, but there are hundreds of games. Hell, I've beaten more than 900 games according to my backlog now. So there are literally hundreds of other games that, if I get to play them again, I will surely remember some good or bad moment of my life. That's the power of nostalgia with a game. It's not uncommon to see people reminiscing moments like on a rainy day turning on my PlayStation in my CRT TV to play Final Fantasy VII. Man, those were the times. And that's kind of a recent thing. Games are a recent media. Of course, they have existed for more than 6 or 7 decades now, but it was only after the late 80s or 90s that games began to tell stories with pixelized fonts, have beautiful soundtracks with chiptunes, and to color our words with animated sprites. We saw all of that evolve into voice acting, symphonic suits, polygons that started really rough around the edges and slowly started to become more and more realistic. With all of this also came the power to impress us, to leave a mark on our personalities, and take roots in our memories. The ability to imprint on us so that 20 years later we can look back, listen to an old soundtrack and immediately go into a nostalgia trip. If you're a JRPG fan and you're around your 30s, there's also a high chance that the songs I'm using in this video will make you feel nostalgic too. The impression left, the impact made, the nostalgia created by these games have the power to control how we choose to consume new media as an adult, or even how we choose to go back and find older media, older games that may appeal to the expectations we have, based on the games we loved when we were younger. Seeing a new game from a franchise we loved being released may automatically see it compared to the older titles, sometimes even making us wanting to revisit the older titles. Now, don't get me wrong, I also love new games and I'm always eager to try new things, but from time to time I see myself setting up PlayStation 2 or 1 emulators and then going on to play some old stuff I had on my backlog for decades and never got to actually play. The funny thing is that even games that I didn't play back then, say for example Dawn of Mana, which I only got to play in 2023 or 2024, I didn't play it back when I had my PS2 during my teenage years, but even so, the graphics and overall gameplay carried so much of the identity from that era that I couldn't help but feel nostalgic playing it. The game isn't really good, but the feeling of nostalgia it evoked made me actually enjoy playing it. I know that being a fan of retro games, I have a huge bias towards enjoying it, but anyway, that takes us to another point. How nostalgia can affect how we see those older games. Have you ever had a moment where you would show a movie or a TV show that you used to love in your childhood to someone, and then you see that person completely unamused and even find yourself thinking something like, well, that wasn't as good as I remembered. Or the contrary, the person was completely unamused and while you did notice that it wasn't as good as you remembered, you still felt that same old spark, showing that independent to how good it actually was, you still love the thing. Has it ever happened to you with a game? Like, you see an old game that you loved in your childhood being remastered or simply re-released? Or even you emulate it and see that, well, as much as you loved that game in the past, you just couldn't bear playing it anymore? That happened to me a while ago. As a kid, I was a huge fan of Parappa the Rapper. 20 years later, the game was remastered for PlayStation 4. Driven by nostalgia, I bought it immediately, just to find out that, apart from the songs that were actually great, the game itself was a little less than underwhelming to me. After playing so many other rhythm games throughout the years, Parappa was just so weird. Sometimes its gameplay didn't even seem to make any sense. And I even went as far as getting the Platinum Trophy, just to leave more confused about the game than when I started playing it. My memories about this game were totally contaminated by the infamous rose-tinted glasses. That feeling that in our memories everything is beautiful and that the game was perfect. I'm quite sure everyone has their own favorite games like this. My girlfriend had me play Abe's Odyssey, a game she really enjoyed when she was a kid. And while the game was actually good, the gameplay didn't really age well. Halfway through the game, we were already tired of it and couldn't bear playing it anymore. We ended up dropping and agreeing that, apart from nostalgia and from it being a good game in the past, it's really hard to get into this game as a newcomer. The rose-tinted glasses made it look way more fun in her memories than what it actually was. The contrary may happen too. You have your rose-tinted glasses, you play the old game, and refuse to see its obvious flaws. For you, it's still the best game ever. Everyone turns out and points to you how the game aged badly, or worse, how it always sucked. But you still play it and have just as much fun as you did as a kid. For me, a game like this would be Dynasty Warriors 3. It was clunky as hell, every entry in the series that came later did everything it did but better. The visuals were ugly, even to the standards of a Musou game, but I just can't help but love that game anyway. And still have as much fun with it as I did when I was like 12 years old, no matter what anyone may say. In fact, I was really happy to see a remake announced recently. Now, obviously, if it were to be released today and I had never played it on my PS2, I would simply say it's trash and never look back.
You flaming idiots! Take this!
But it holds a place so deep in my memory from a middle year vacation back in 2001 or 2002, and I had my friends come over to my place and play the hell out of this game from morning to evening. Nothing can beat those good memories out of me. More than nostalgia. In Portuguese, my native language, we use the word saudade. That doesn't have an exact translation, but it means something like the melancholy felt from the absence of someone or something that was there before. Like saudade of a time that is long gone. Saudades of when my only obligation was to go to school and then I had the entire day to do whatever I wanted. Saudades of all those people who were part of my life and used to play with me, but life made us go different ways. And saudades of when I used to play Dynasty Warriors 3 with my friends in that middle year vacation. Now, it's inevitable that at some point all of this may affect what we consume, what we buy, what we play. A new game from a series that disappeared and is now coming back? A crowdfunding spiritual successor to a game we loved and may or may not be actually good? Wait, the original creator of that old school JRPG series I used to love is back and making a new spiritual successor with a different game? You can freaking count me in. A sequel to a classic franchise that had its last entry 20 years ago? I will pre-order it ASAP. These things happen all the time, sure. They lost power after some fiascos like Mighty No. 9, which I kinda like, mind you. I acknowledge all its problems, but I still had a lot of fun with this game. I'll probably make a video about it some other time. But anyway, it's impossible to deny that what makes these spiritual sequels move so much money is precisely the nostalgia we've been talking about all this time. The trailers, the announcements, the promises, they are almost always the same. To bring back those beloved titles. To make you feel exactly like you did when you were young with some new modern game that will probably play exactly like the one you loved 2 decades ago, with subpar graphics that look bad even for low budget standards. And most people will play it and get underwhelmed because it won't bring the same feeling they had when they played games as a kid. They are all adults now, we are all adults now, we don't have time to play as much as we did. We all played a lot of other games, and when faced with something that's exactly like the old games that we loved so much, we just find out that these games aged badly and we're left with that feeling of disappointment, saying that it wasn't the same, even if it was exactly the same. Now, of course, there'll also be those who actually know exactly what they want. They really wished for something that plays exactly like it did 20 years ago, and they will be delighted by it. I'm part of this group myself. For most of the time, at least. As I said, I'm a retro games fan, and a nostalgic person above all that. I'll play the hell out of this ugly spiritual sequel with clunky controls and love every second of it. But what can we learn from all of this? Something the companies know and have always known for decades. Nostalgia sells. Nostalgia prints money. And what's even easier to do than a sequel or even a spiritual sequel? Yes, remakes. And even more, remasters. We're living on an age where we're getting tons of these every month. Just in 2025, we had many announcements and releases from old school classics JRPGs like Lunar Remastered, Final Fantasy Tactics, to a colossus of the industry like Metal Gear Solid Delta, full remake of Kojima's masterpiece, Snake Eater. Now, although it's undeniable that there are more and more remakes and remasters than ever, they are not a recent thing. For as far as we can remember, there have always been remakes and remasters ever since. Back on the SNES, Super Mario All-Stars was literally a collection of remakes for the first Super Mario games, originally released for the NES and remade simply after one single new generation. The same thing happened to Ninja Gaiden, for example, with all 3 original NES games compiled into a single cartridge for the SNES. Even more so, some franchises had remakes released as full-number titles like Super Castlevania IV, for example, which was a full expanded remake of the first Castlevania, and then remade again for the next generation as Castlevania Chronicles, and sold once again for the PlayStation 1. I know that a lot of people complain a lot about the amount of remasters and remakes we're getting nowadays, but I'm gonna play the devil's advocate here and say that I actually don't see that as a problem. As I just said, this has always happened, and yes, there is a lot of cash grabs here and there, with poor ports being released as remasters and being charged absurd prices for what could easily be an emulated ROM. I will not defend anything like that, but the existence of said remasters is actually a good thing, be it for preservation, especially with so many companies hunting emulation sites, be it for a new generation having the opportunity to play them, or be it simply to appeal to nostalgia and earn money from us, old fans who are willing to play these games again. Or simply for old school fans to try games they didn't have a chance to play back in the day. For me, it can go in a variety of different ways. As I said, I bought Parappa the Rapper when it was released for the PS4 and hated it. But I also bought Mega Man X Legacy Collection and even got the Platinum Trophy for it since I love the first 4 Mega Man X games so much. I'm currently playing Ninja Gaiden 2 Black, remake for Ninja Gaiden 2, which I didn't have the opportunity to play back then, and I'm having a blast. It's an amazing action game with no Souls-like elements like almost every goddamn action game nowadays. For Ninja Gaiden fans, it's an opportunity to play it again, or to simply skip it since they've already played it, but for me, it's a brand new game. It doesn't matter if it's old, if I never played it, then it's a new game. In the end, it feels great to have the option to buy these new versions, or to simply go back and play the older versions. Or maybe go with the third option and emulate them with all the quality of life an emulator can give you. It's all up to you, to how you want to enjoy your nostalgia. Be it plugging an old console to a CRT, be it on your modern gaming PC, or buying a remastered version for a modern console. But you wanna know how nostalgia can affect what we choose to play or not to play in an even more unexpected way? I've been playing remakes of games I loved for years now. I've played Final Fantasy VII Remake, although it's probably not what we could consider a proper remake considering everything. I've played Resident Evil 2, 3 and 4 remakes. These are all games I loved when I was a kid or a teenager, but there's one single title that I could not bear to try yet. When I was 17 years old, Persona 3 was released. I was in the peak of my teens, my formative years, a time where everything is bound to make an impression on us. Persona 3 was a JRPG made for weeb teenagers, and guess what I was? Exactly, a weeb teenager, as opposed to just a weeb that I am now. I don't mean to say that Persona 3 was a better game than any of the others I mentioned, but I was the target audience, and the game resonated with me in every possible way. By this time, I was already fluent in English, so I could enjoy the game in every detail. For days, I would get home from school and play Persona 3 until dusk, sleep, wake up, go to high school, and play Persona 3 more and more. I lived and breathed Persona 3 for the next month. Summer vacation arrived, and in case you're asking, summer vacation in Brazil happens between December and January, and then I've played Persona 3 for more 2 months. Living with my parents, my only worry being getting into a college, I had enough free time to be totally immersed in the world of Persona 3. And then, 2024, Persona 3 Reload was released. I've played Persona 4, 5, every Shin Megami Tensei game available in the West, but when I saw Persona 3 being released as a remake, I simply felt that I should not play this game. Not because I think it's bad or that I won't enjoy it. Pretty much the opposite. I'm sure it's even better than the original version. I'm sure everything that aged badly in Persona 3 was fixed in this remake, and the experience is probably way better than the original. But I have changed. The world I live in has changed. I don't live with my parents anymore. I work all day, sometimes all night too. I have to cook my own meals, to clean my house, I have to train and take care of my health. I usually can't play for more than 1 hour straight, sometimes 2 hours if I'm lucky. To think about playing Persona 3 Reload and not being able to thoroughly enjoy it and be completely immersed on this game as I did with the original Persona 3, it all sounds painful to me. I want to enjoy it the same way I enjoyed it when I was a teenager. I wish I could recreate the entire setting, but with this new remake. I wish to fulfill the nostalgia I feel about this game. I long for it, I yearn for this past moment. That's precisely what nostalgia means. And in this case, it's precisely this nostalgia that keeps me away from this remake. I don't want to play 30 minutes of it and then stop playing cause I need to sleep and work tomorrow, and maybe only be able to play it again 3 days later. This is not the experience I remember about Persona 3. And I don't want to taint my good old memories with it, just trying to relive those moments and failing. I've watched trailers, I've listened to the new soundtrack and loved every new version, every new track. Color Your Night has been in my playlist for more than a year now, but I just can't bear to play this remake because of nostalgia. Have you ever felt something like this? A memory so good, or at least so affected by those rose-tinted glasses, that you don't even dare risking it? I know a lot of this sounds like that old argument of "damn, that's ruining my childhood," which is an argument I always disagree on. I mean, if someone releases a bad remake of something you liked, and you hate that remake, it's not ruining your childhood. The older version is still there, your childhood already happened, nothing can change that. But in this case, the remake is probably good. I'm sure it's good. But even so, the mere fact that it won't be the same, that it won't be exactly the same way it was, is enough for me to not even try it. Have you ever felt like this? Do you feel any of the cases I've mentioned here to be relatable? As I said in the beginning, I'm here today not only to share my own experience with nostalgia and remasters or remakes, but also to hear about your stories, what you guys think about all of this. I want to know if you enjoy playing remakes or would rather play the older versions. Please tell me all about it in the comments. If you agree or disagree, I'd like to read everything. And that's it for today's video. Thanks for accompanying me through this nostalgia trip. I hope you all enjoyed it, at least some bit of this video, and feel like sharing your own stories too. And don't forget to like, subscribe and hype this video to help me reach more people. Thanks again everyone, and see you next time, hopefully it will be soon.